Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to this week's How It's Done. My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor at GamesRadar.com, and your host for this lovely, lovely program today. With me is Editor Dave Roberts. Hello, Dave.
Hello, and Octodad as well.
And Octodad.
He's chilling with me right now.
Octodad is hanging out, and we are playing the wonderful, scary game called Noct, made by a gentleman named Chris Eskins, who's going to be joining us on the show a little bit later. Noct is a incredibly upsetting game. You wouldn't expect an overhead, like, top-down perspective action game that's, like, with hazy, minimalist black and white graphics to be so deeply upsetting, and yet it is. Like, this, it looks like Blair Witch Project, Hotline Miami.
Yeah, I was gonna say this looks like a scary version of Hotline Miami, and like that game was kind of scary, but in a different sort of way.
Yes, accurate. Very accurate.
But this is. So what is this, like? It's supposed to look like black and white found footage or something, but from a top-down perspective?
I think, and like we can talk to Chris about this when he joins us. If you guys in the crowd have questions on how to make a game akin to this, you'll be able to ask the man himself when he joins us in half an hour. But I think it's trying to do like night vision. Like,
okay.
You know, like the radar perspective you see in, like there's that famous sequence in Call of Duty 4.
I was gonna say this looks like a Call of Duty DLC.
Right?
Or something.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Hello to you, Sparks V, already hanging out in the chat. Good to see you, man. On this lovely pre-Halloween Thursday. Anybody who is Yodel, this is Bump in the Night Scary. Hotline Miami was bumped off in the night scary. Hey-o! Yodel, you keep talking like that, you're gonna summon Ludwig Kitzman in the area. He's just gonna appear.
Say his name 3 times and he'll appear out of the ether.
Ludwig Kitzman is the pun Candyman of video games, everybody. That's accurate. That's an accurate description. Anybody who is joining us here at the very top of the show, let me know if you can hear the game at all.
I can hear it.
You can hear it. Yeah, you can hear it.
Yeah, I can hear it through the headphones.
We had to, unfortunately, not pump the game audio directly into... Oh, no, my character just said, uh-oh. I don't know why.
That's never a good sign.
Shit. We had to... Oh, God, oh, no. No. Okay, fine. I'm already dead, Dave.
Yeah, I'm because I'm watching the Twitch feed right now, so I'm like, okay. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There's the spider and the big frog monster that's like, and you're dead.
Yeah. All right. Weapons close by help on a corpse close. Okay, so I can go get my weapons, where there is a giant thing covered with eyes, and
so
a spider and.
So how does this work? Is there any permanence? Like it's roguelike-y, right? Like
it is roguelike-y.
Okay, randomly generated, death is permanent, that sort of thing.
And the thing is my understanding of how this game works is way outdated. So the version that I played and the state it was in at the time. All right, I got my stuff. I don't think. Oh God, there's my dead body. There's some kind of wormy thing that really hates me. Wow, this plays really well with a controller too. I
nice.
Could not use a controller the first time I played it. Okay, I'm out of ammunition. Leave me alone, Bugman. Go away. You don't mind. Oh, wait, what? Oh, I see. I've changed the perspective. Oh, no! Son of a bitch! So I had shifted. You'll see it, and I shifted into the satellite view.
Okay.
And then
yep, there it is.
Like a dum-dum, allowed one of the creatures from Beetlejuice to come up and eat my butt. They were like, you look delicious. And I was like, please don't. Dave, you have a feature up on GamesRadar.com today.
I do.
That I think is very pertinent to today's game and the many types of games that people are talking about this week. It's scary games for people that hate scary games.
Yeah. The general idea behind it is I dig scary games, but I'm not a fan of their general... It's hard to explain, because like horror games are, by their nature, framed around this idea of trial and error, where you're slowly walking down a corridor, or you're exploring a house, and the unknown is the scary part of the game. So you're constantly freaked out, like, what's going on? But then, there has to be danger, there has to be something that makes you want to survive, so
Right.
There's a monster, and it's, like, chasing you down. And because it wants to be scary, it has to put you at a disadvantage.
Right.
Which means you're probably going to die.
While at the same time compelling you forward, which is a really weird balance to strike.
But the thing is that a lot of horror games that I'm not a huge fan of, it's just this constant sense of dread, and you die and you restart, and you die and you restart, and that's just not fun for me.
Right.
That's not what I'm looking for when I play a game. That's not what I'm looking for when I play a horror game. So I kind of racked my brain a little bit and thought about some of my favorite scary games and why I enjoyed them. And the thing that kind of tied them all together is that they're scary, but they're not frustrating, and they're not overbearing with their horror, and they give you either you can't die, and the scare just comes from the ambiance or the exploration or the story or just the general sort of creeping dread. Or if you can die, it's you're given enough tools to be able to survive without frustration. It's a different kind of horror. So Resident Evil 4. I put Alien Isolation on the list because on the novice mode, that game is a completely different game. It's actually kind of an enjoyable 10-hour jaunt, as opposed to 20 hours of
abject misery.
Yeah, just beating your head up against the wall. I only died a handful of times. Yeah, there's my cat.
I like your cat chiming in on Alien Isolation.
Yeah,
being
he's...
There's not enough Jones in Alien Isolation. Where's Jonesy?
Yeah, where's Jonesy?
I got some questions.
I thought this was supposed to be faithful to the movie franchise. Who do I talk to? But yeah, there's this game on iOS called The Room, which is a delightfully kind of unsettling game because you're essentially exploring these different rooms, solving these puzzle boxes. The art style is very it's kind of this Victorian era England which already in the right lighting can be kind of creepy.
Right.
And then you also have the story about the scientist who's slowly going mad, trying to harness this this newly discovered power source, this element, and he ends up finding a dimension, a teleporter to another dimension, and the game just gets all sorts of weird. But it's these Myst style self-contained puzzles. You're never in any danger. But it's also just really creepy simply playing the game.
Right.
And that to me, not every scary game has to be jump scare and you die.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people, are huge fans of Bloodborne and Dark Souls and those games. And I actually don't like playing those games. Because of kind of the reasons that you were talking about, that you don't like horror games, where the die repeat cycle leads to a level of frustration that just I don't associate with a good time.
Exactly.
But I love how those games scare the ever-loving crap out of you.
Oh, yeah.
Because the way, like, they rely so heavily on your familiarity. Like, it's all about tricking you, not with, like, oh, here's something unknown. Like, they do have jump scares. But I love that they're like, haha, you've been through here 50 billion times before. You fought this boss 78 times so far, and you keep dying, and then they change things. They just shift it just a little bit. And it's so... like, it makes you want to wet your pants. I mean, well, not want to wet your pants, but...
Yeah, no one ever wants to, like, people say, like, oh, I'm gonna shit my... Like, no, nobody ever wants to shit their pants.
Nobody is aiming to for pants shitting.
That's never a good time for anyone involved.
Question number
have to
one.
Clean it.
Question number one for Chris Eskins when he joins us is: do you plan on putting in a pants shitting mode, sir? So weird thing that's been happening in the game that is so subtle I almost didn't notice it. Is the perspective of the layout of the environment keeps shifting. Oh no! Keeps shifting slightly, and it's really upsetting because you can't. Oh, you are dead, you stupid multi-armed bastard. It keeps shifting the perspective of the overhead view, so you can actually see right now. Like, I'm next to all of these trailers in a shipyard, and
that looked different.
It's
a few
just
minutes ago.
It's just slowly revolving. It's like you're in one of those restaurants at the top of, like, the Space Needle, or the Needle in Toronto, which is not the Space Needle, and I don't know what it's called.
The Canadian Tower?
The Canadian Space Needle, Needle. Canada
Tower, I think? I don't know. One of our...
It's the Canadian.
Canadians... The Canucka Needle.
The Canoodle.
But yeah, no, like this is incredibly off-putting. Just like very unsettling. You never like you will never ever have a full grasp of your bearings.
But I really like the stripping down of you have a goal. Go here. We're gonna tell you where to go. We're not gonna tell you what's between here and there, and you will probably die. You're going to be another person. You can go get your stuff. Like, it's taking all of these sort of basics of classic horror games and also the like super popular. I feel like every single small developer working in the industry right now is imitating Dark Souls in some small way.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And, like, that is just the name of the game. But, like, this is taking the smartest part of that.
Oh, yeah.
With it. Like... just that, go find these resources. Is that a thing, or is that a dead person?
So, speaking of Dark Souls, like, Namco Bandai, like, between Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and Namco Bandai making these, like, it seems like every 2 years now, and then Bloodstone's in between, like, it's practically a annual franchise right now. Like, what are your thoughts on that? I could barely, like, I forced myself to get through Bloodborne because I was like, I am going... Oh, you're dead there. I'm going to...
I managed to not yell that time. Because it, like, I was sitting there and I was like, doo-dee-doo, dead body, giant spider! No!
But yeah, like... I have a cycle when it comes to these games. Like, it happened with Demon's Souls, it happened with Dark Souls, it happened with Dark Souls 2, where the game gets released, astounding reviews. Everyone's like, oh my god, this game is amazing. It's so good, it's really hard, but if you stick with it, you'll love it. And I'm like, I want to give this the old college try. Right. I pick it up, I give it like 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, and I'm like, F this, and I trade it in. It happened with Demon's Souls, it happened with Dark Souls, like, every single... Like, I never learn, too. Yeah, it's like, oh, Dark Souls is out. Hey, I totally forgot what happened with Demon's Souls. This sounds like it'll be fun. Buy it. Nope. Trade it in. Dark Souls 2. Hey, there was a first one of these. I don't remember that experience at all. Buy it. Nope. So with Bloodborne, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to beat it. And I did. And I never want to go through that experience again. I never, ever, ever want to do that experience was mine, and I'll take it with me, and I will hold it close to my heart for the rest of my life.
You're a better man than I, dude. Because I fall into the exact same camp as you, and I played Bloodborne I sank about 15 hours in, and then just stopped, and I was like, I'm gone, I'm done. I'm tired of this.
It's like, it is stressful in a way that no other game that I've ever played is stressful. And like those moments when you clutch victory from the jaws of defeat are amazing. And I get like that is why people play, because you finally like take down that fucker that has been killing you for 30 times. But that's never something that I'm like, oh, what's in the store today to play for video games? Oh, what is this light jaunt called Dark Souls? Yes, I shall pick this up from my local supermarket and play it when I get home from a hard day's work.
Ye old superette.
But, yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you think? Like, is it something that, like, are you glad that they're kind of annualizing it, or do you think that like
okay, let me start with this, that I'm not sure that they are annualizing it. Like, well, right. It's unfortunate that Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2 came out within 12 months of each other. And hold on one second, I'm sitting here. Oh shit, shit, not again, man, not again. Where, select your freaking weapon, you stupid... Okay. Oh, I just blew myself up. I just grenaded myself, that's what I did.
Awesome.
That's what I did. Hello to you, Pepper Sandwich. And Yodel, the old "this time will be different," which describes both Dave's cycle of playing and disappointment with the Souls Bloodborne series, as well as what I keep doing with this stupid shack. Why do I keep going in there unprepared? Alright, so, to answer your question, Dave, I think it's just unfortunate that Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne came out in such close proximity to each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm very interested with the patience that From Software has taken with developing this series, because there were 4 years between Demon Souls and Dark Souls.
This interview is going to be fantastic.
It's going to be really good.
This is really good.
It's really thought through this pairing. That's what I did. I thought it right all the way through.
I love like watching your face, just like putting your hand up to the screen, just nope.
And
so good.
It's just, you don't have any time to really be miserable when something bad goes on in this. It's just like, boom, you're gone. So yeah, like, 4 years between Dark Souls and Demon Souls, and then, Dark Souls 2 came out... Oh no, it was 3 years between Demon Souls and Dark Souls. I keep forgetting that was 2012, not, Hell, was it 2012 or was it 2011?
Let me pop up the old Google machine.
I'm pretty sure Dark Souls was 2012. Or... it was
Demon Souls was 2009.
9, right? February 2009 in Asia.
Dark Souls was 2011.
It was 2011, so a couple of years.
2 years later.
And then 2 years between Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2.
Dark Souls 2 was 2014.
But they showed it in 2013. I keep, trying to... I get in that cycle of associating the first time I see a game at a demo session with its release, which is not accurate. Alright, I survived that hellhole. And
And then
now
Dark Souls 3 should be hitting next
next
year.
year. So that's it's 2 years. It's every 2 years. Which is, I mean, hell, like the From Software used to do that with Armored Core. They used to do it with Kingsfield, and
Yeah, no, that's true.
that's fine. I would rather see something going every 2 years. But like the other thing is I think each one shows, and I say this even from the outside and not like a lover of those games. I appreciate the evolution that takes place in each of them. You know, like there's always something discernibly different.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
It's clear that they're not just churning these out.
right.
There's a lot of love and craft that goes into them.
They're not,
But also,
and they're not. They're also not Assassin's Creed. It's not
right.
like oh well, From Software looked at the user data and the focus groups and the marketing tests and realized that what was really missing was more customizable hats. Like that's not. If anybody out there is making their own game and it's based around cosmetic microtransactions, I didn't mean to offend you, except for the fact that I meant to offend you. No. That's not true. I find it's a completely reasonable thing to do.
Hey, you got to get yours somehow. You got to get paid.
You got to get paid.
And better to do that than pay to win, or what have you.
Dave, I'll say this. What concerns me about the frequency of From Software's releases is that I worry that they will stop making other things.
Yeah.
Like, my favorite From Software is the From Software that makes, like... I like the From Software that makes Ninja Blade and Otogi. Like,
yeah.
That's the From Software that I want.
So I have a question for you. A think piece idea, if you will. What if Dark Souls but Armored Core?
Oh man, I would play the Jesus out of that. I would play. Oh my god, I would play.
I miss those
so
games,
hard.
man.
Yeah, about every 5 years I try to fall in love with Armored Core again.
Yeah.
And it's a style of fiddliness that I just don't respond to.
Yeah, it's hard.
Okay, fuck you, Spider. Go to hell. Go to hell. I'm out of ammunition, and it knows. It knows.
It can smell it.
I can smell my lag. Oh, Shazbot. All right. Piss off. That's right. Oh. I love the sound effects in this game. So that's something that I unfortunately probably isn't translating very well onto the stream, is that the gunshots are like super muted. It sounds like you're hearing them underwater. So rather than like this loud booming, it's just like this quiet repeating thump, and it's just very upsetting. Very upsetting. Uh-oh. Okay. I don't even know what my goal is right now. I know I needed to get something. It's just going to keep sending me out here.
Duke is saying that he hears the music really makes this game.
It does. It's great. It's it sounds like Brian Eno hates you. How's that for a description, everybody? It sounds
Brian
like
Eno had a picture of a middle finger hanging up on a wall when he wrote this.
Brian
just
Eno
stared at it while pounding at his keyboard.
Really hates you. That's what it sounds like. It's great. It's a wonderful, wonderful ambient soundtrack. And like pleasant, like to the point that I think I would listen to this free of the game. But in this context, it's definitely upsetting. Alright, how do I get in here? See, I don't want to go... This game is really good at being like, I don't want to go down that tight, cramped hallway. Passage. It looks like it sucks over there. Perfect opportunity for some... Take the walkway to the second structure and tell me what to do, game.
You don't know me.
You don't know me. Okay.
it's really amazing how much this game is able to do and convey with so little.
Yes, very much. And like, I really want to talk to Chris Eskins, the creator of Noct, who's going to be joining us in just 5 more minutes, everybody, about precisely that, about really creating a big effect with minimalism, because it's very difficult. You know, I love minimalist games. Like I'm a huge fan of Pixel Junk's early work and N++, and but like they evoke very simplistic emotions. And I find that as primal as what Noct brings out is, it also it brings out a lot of different things. It's very subtle.
Yeah. And like, I always get frustrated when people like they look at pixel art, or they look at like minimalist style or whatever, and they talk about like, oh, you know, they use the pixel art because it's easy or whatever, you know, like, and it's just like no, like creating something even in a minimalist style, like a cohesive style that conveys the emotions that you want it to convey is a very difficult thing to do.
Super hard. Oh
god! Like I'm just watching this. Oh my god! There are 2 of them.
I'm just gonna pause because that felt great getting out of there, man. Not being in there feels really nice.
So this is multiplayer too, right?
Yes, this is multiplayer. And I'm not sure if Chris is going to be able to hop into the game, or what we would need to do to affect that change, but I hope he does, because that would be pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
And I am just checking to see if he is ready to join us. And he should be. Alright, yeah. We've got a few minutes. We've got a few minutes of me surviving and being happy and, like, content in being alive.
Oh my god. So that game that Ludwig was talking about on the podcast last week, Layers of Fear.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently it's made by Bloober Team. Which they made... I think like one of the lowest reviewed games that we have on the site is Basement Crawl, which I reviewed.
What is Basement Crawl?
It's a bad Bomberman clone that is just broken and buggy as hell. Like they ended up... I don't know if they pulled it from the store, but they ended up re-releasing the game like in a completely different way, like a year later, and gave everyone who bought Basement Crawl the new game for free.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't played the new one. It supposedly fixes a lot of the bugs, but yeah, like that's just that. I don't know. That's funny to me, especially hearing how effective and good this game is. So.
Okay, not gonna worry about that skeleton thing. Man, do you remember anything about He-Man? You might be just...
Oh yeah, no, I had a He-Man figure game when I was growing up.
Game? There was an accessory for He-Man called Battle Bones, which was one of the worst toys of all time. Because it was literally built to break just like immediately. But these monsters that I keep running into that aren't spiders or the big hulking eye things basically look like Battle Bones. But again, as is a theme with this, is Battle Bones that hates you. All right.
Yep.
Let's get Chris Eskins on the line, everybody.
Yeah, let's get him.
Let's get that gentleman in here to hang out with us and to be deeply upset by things, huh? How about that?
Sounds good.
Let's get him into this call. As I bring up a text window that you see in front of Dave's face, everybody.
Blah.
Here we go. Chris, are you with us?
Hey, how's it going?
Chris, why does your game hate me so much?
Cause I wanted to make a super
Why?
hard game that would be even difficult for me to play as the developer.
Why would you do this? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Thursday's episode of How It's Done. My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor at GamesRadar.com. And today we are playing Noct, a wonderful new action game? Horror game?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mix mash of like some of my favorite games that my friends and I played. So I just tried to kind of put them all
together.
aspects from everything.
That voice you are hearing, everybody, is Mr. Chris Eskins, the creator of Noct. And Chris, you first demonstrated Noct for me way back in the long ago of January of this year at PAX South.
Yep.
And the thing that immediately impressed me about your game was that it managed to scare the bejesus out of me at about 9 a.m. on a crowded show floor at a convention center in Texas, which is ridiculous. By rights, that should not happen. So tell me, man, tell the people about the origins of Noct. I know that it sort of started out as a very casual project that you just wanted something for you and your friends to mess around in, right?
Yeah, it started as a zombie game, and I guess that was the really kind of neat thing about it, that it came from my friends and I playing like DayZ and games like that, and liking certain aspects of those games, but and then disliking other aspects of it. So we're like, okay, well, what is there another game that we can play, or and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna make one that we can mess around in. And I started doing that, and we started playing around with it, and then they were like, you should start showing this to other people, because this is really neat and different.
Dude, how do you quantify that moment? How do you recognize the moment that you are making something, that you have a kernel of an idea that is going to be a hell of a lot more than, oh, this is a cute little experiment. Like, this is something that I could actually get out there and that people are going to freaking love.
It's tricky, because for me, it's the developer. It's really difficult to kind of enjoy your own thing. Like, you've been working on it for such a long time, so you're just pouring every hour into this project, and you're constantly getting feedback from other people. But like many developers have said, they have their group of friends that play their game, and you don't know if your friends are saying, oh, it's really good, or you've got something here because they're your friends.
It's a totally different ball game when you have people looking at something you created. Yeah.
That's it. So when you go to a show like PAX, right, with Devolver Digital, and then people are coming up and playing your game, and you don't know these people at all, and you see them, and you're like, kind of standing behind them, and you're just like biting your nails a bit, and you're like, oh my god, are they gonna like it? And you see them jump at your game, like you did.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. That never happened. I have nerves of steel.
That moment there is how I quantify it. That makes it all worth it, to see like, oh my god, okay, so I did something good here. So people are enjoying this. It's invoking emotions, and that's how I quantify it. That's how I validate it for myself, at least.
So the other thing that immediately drew me to Noct, and that Dave here on the line and I were just talking about, is not only do you evoke that thing that you're looking for, that flinch, that involuntary response, but you do it with very limited means. The minimal presentation of this game is crazy, because it evokes not just it doesn't just make you shit your pants, although shitting your pants is certainly part of it, like when that spider came out of the woods right now and killed me. That's certainly part of it. God damn it, man. But yeah, so how do you balance things out? How do you make a minimalist style like this work and actually, be subtle and be scary and not just be, that jump scare? How do you create an atmosphere with very limited tools?
It's kind of about like everything coming together to set that mood. So when you have that minimalism, you know, that presence, and you only have this very limited palette that you've kind of restricted yourself to, you really start to say, okay, think outside the box. How can I invoke that creepy factor, of like something kind of lurking on the side of the screen, but not really fully coming into view. So it's kind of distorted. You don't know what it is or what it might want. Probably wants to eat you. You know about that much, but that's it, right? So the player starts kind of creating the rest in their head, and it's like reading a really good book. I always use like the Jaws analogy. It's like Jaws was like scariest for me, and probably many of us, when you didn't actually see the shark. You just knew something was there. So the more you can create the atmosphere that something is there, and it is organic, like there is, it is doing kind of its own thing. It's just being a monster.
Right.
Then that gives you this feeling of like, oh man, it's really creepy. Like I can't. It's very hard to explain. And then you add an amazing soundtrack and score to that, and really good sound design, and it's just like this winning combination of atmosphere, which is just, that's what I look for when I watch horror movies. If it can set the atmosphere for me in like the first 10 minutes of the film, I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm on board.
So speaking of the sound design, we have Sparks V in the chat here who wants to know how the hell you got the guy from Nine Inch Nails to make the soundtrack.
Robin, he's awesome, and so's Pedro, Word Clock, and we lucked out, and Devolver Digital was awesome enough to introduce me to Robin through Mike at Devolver Digital, and yeah, like Robin just we chilled out. He saw the game, and we started talking about it, and how he could get involved with the project, and once he joined on, and he started interacting with Pedro, and they started creating the new score. It was like magic, like two different kind of worlds. Pedro's style is dark ambient, right? This is really, really gritty dark ambient, and then you've got Robin from Nine Inch Nails, who just has insane guitar skills that I've never really seen before, and you put those together, and you're given this amazing soundtrack. I just love it. I've told many this. I work on the game while listening to the soundtrack, because it just helps me create like more atmosphere. So, and they made the soundtrack while playing the game, which was interesting. So, Robin would sit there and play the game and watch the visuals for the game and be like, okay, yeah. And it was really cool to see that whole dynamic.
Did you give them any direction at all? Were you like, we want to just make it sound like this, or?
Not really. I basically said, okay, I'm hands off. I want you guys to create your interpretation of how the music should sound in Noct. And Pedro had already kind of laid the groundwork for that, and it just like came together, and the end result is just incredible.
Oh man, so just a couple of weeks ago, Chris, the other day, my wife and I were out hiking in upstate New York, and
Okay.
we're at the top of a dam, and it's like really cold. It was one of the. It's just this cold snap in the middle of fall, so it's still really bright out, but it's like 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And we're sitting above this dam, and there's there's a little shack to the side that has freaking spray paint all over it. It literally, I'm not making this up. It actually said like seniors apostrophe 13 on it. Not even a high school. Like, it was that generic. It just said seniors 13. I was like, wow, really? And so the perfectly clear pool of water above this dam, but we could see where a tree had fallen into the water.
Yeah.
And like you could just see like moss growing on the tree, and you could see the branch just going down and down to a point where you just can't see it anymore. It like it keeps going, but you can no longer discern any detail. My wife and I look at each other and we say, all right, why the hell is that scary? Why is that scary? And it goes to exactly what you were just talking about with Jaws and the monsters in Noct. Like, it's worse when you just have the idea of a threat, something unseen that is just gonna make you nervous.
Yeah.
That is not a good thing for making mechanics in a game, though. You have to sit there and make sure that people know what they're supposed to be doing, rather than being like, I'm just going to go away from this creepy as hell dam with its spot where clearly some teenagers were murdered near a shack that said seniors 13, probably by a guy in a mask of some kind. Not a hockey mask. That would be too on the nose, but like definitely like a lacrosse mask, something like that.
Some sort of sports mask.
Some kind of sports mask. So yeah, like how do you make sure that people don't get lost, that you still have a discernible goal in the game when you're still sort of trying to make people feel helpless and hunted by this unseen threat? I would imagine that's tricky.
It's a tightrope, because on one hand you want to keep the player immersed and let them kind of explore. Sometimes the player getting lost is a really good thing. Like in DayZ, getting lost can be awesome. But it's a double-edged sword, because it can lead to like frustration, not knowing what they're supposed to do. So I try, in Noct, to try to balance that with the core narrative, and as you've probably been seeing, the dialogue between the observation of the survivor and the survivor, him or herself. And it's extremely minimalistic, but we wanted to keep it that way because the less you interfere directly, the more freedom you're giving to the player to kind of explore and get into trouble or get into situations where they're fighting lots of nopes, and screaming, and at the same time you want to guide them through the main narrative of the story. So it's tricky, and every time it's like I work on a section of the game, I'll sometimes usually have to go back and redo it because it was just like, okay, it was too direct, or it wasn't direct enough, and it's a balancing act, but practice makes perfect. So,
Chris, walk me through how everything in Noct works, because again, it's been about 9 months since I played the game. And I understand that there are procedurally generated elements of this. There are randomized elements when you fire it up. Is that correct?
Yeah. Correct. So, I mean, Noct is like pretty ambitious project for my first game kind of deal. And, decided to make it a multiplayer game. And I knew through doing that the only way to really do that the right way as a gamer would be to make it multiplayer from the ground up. So even if you're playing single player, your environment is multiplayer, and players can join dynamically. at any given time to your world, kind of like Minecraft,
Cool.
in that sort of sense. So it's like the networking aspect of it. Um, and with that, I mean, you have all these procedural elements of the game world, which is like, aspects from like DayZ, where you have certain loot areas, certain types of loot that will only spawn in sections of the map, but for the most part, it's left up to this randomness. So it's like that. I get this drive when I play these types of games where I can't see into a building. I want to go inside and I want to get loot. I don't care what that loot is, but I want to see if I want it. And I think we all have that desire. And of course, by doing that, you're risking your survivor, right? You're putting them in jeopardy by taking the risk of going to a city. But you're like, well, if I make it out of there though with that, that big gun I found, oh man, I'll be able to beat that thing. So it's that risk versus reward. We kept the map itself is static, and the reason for that, we don't use like a lot of procedural generation for that, because I want players to become familiar with the world that they're constantly residing in. And you can have procedurally generated maps, and that's great. But every time you log into it, you're like, okay, it's
time to learn a whole new set of rules.
time to learn a whole thing. I like the fact that when you go in, like, players will be able to go into Noct and they'll be able to be like, okay, I'm gonna go to the airfield today, and maybe I'm gonna find some good stuff there. Maybe I'll find that mission that I really, really wanted to do to get that achievement. And if it is there, I'm gonna get my friends to come with me. And I like that you can just start up a single player game, go and check it, or maybe start up several and try to get it to spawn with your friends, and then go and take part in that content. So I like that aspect of like familiarity.
Oh, fuck you, spiders! I hate all of you.
You just see this little
I'm just watching
appear
the
over his
delay,
head.
and it's
so Dave was making fun of me before you joined us, Chris, because he's like, yeah, good choice of game to talk to somebody while playing. Son of a bitch. And like, I'm sitting here and I'm not sure. I want to assure you that I don't have some kind of like deviated septum or something, where you'll be saying something and all of a sudden I'm like. Immediately, it's just that deep inhaled nose breath is because some horrible thing just came out of the woods, and I just got eaten by all those spiders. It really sucked. Chris, you were talking about thinking about like the things that DayZ did really well.
Yeah.
In terms of sort of creating this open space for a bunch of people to play together and sort of create their own sort of weird stress fun. Yep. And the thing that kind of like bums me out about DayZ is that there seemed to be a few years ago this real moment, like when DayZ was first, that very first public testing began, and it exploded, sold something like 2 million early copies, and it had this huge population. But because of the way people played it together, I feel like a lot of people stopped playing it. They didn't like the culture that sort of opened up around it. And obviously, Noct is not going to have the same sort of culture. It's not that same sort of, role-playing where you can prey upon others and just spend all your time trolling people. Yeah. But I'm curious, in your experience of building this multiplayer thing from the ground up, how do you go about making something that people are going to be like feel safe approaching and know that they're going to have a good time with? Like, maybe safe is the wrong word, but more approachable. How do you make Noct so that like people are be like, oh, I can imagine playing that with both my friends and strangers and not feeling alienated immediately because somebody on the other end is a jerk.
Well, with that, you always, and I know like DayZ was primarily PvP because the zombies in the game were more of a nuisance to players. So that, you know, that's one of the core differences right there. You know, obviously there's tons, right? I don't think the two can be compared directly, but you know, with say in Noct, if you're playing and you know, hypothetical situation, you see another survivor and you're like, okay, I want to kill this guy, I'm gonna take his stuff, right? That's the first instinct. I want what he has, and I'm gonna grab it. Well, I mean, that's perfectly fine. You're gonna have to fight him for it, because, you know, in DayZ you could actively just snipe someone with a single bullet from very far away and ruin their day, and they wouldn't even know what killed them. In this game,
and literally ruin their day because they could have been playing for 24 hours
just to get that stuff, and they lose it. Which, I mean, you know, that can be that is fun on a certain level, right? But it is at the same time extremely frustrating. For this one, your combat's toe to toe, so everything that is close quarters combat with other players. So you really do get to see who's fighting you, and you get to say, oh, well, okay, is this going to be worth the bullets? Because, hey, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to take your stuff, but there's a really good chance that I'm going to die in the next 2 minutes to something. You know, something's going to come find both of us because we're making noise, or I've got your blood on me, and it's going to eat me. And so what I found in multiplayer is, people, you're always going to have the troll players, but the desire to do it is reduced greatly, and the effectiveness of it is reduced greatly. Like, you're better off working together. On top of that, I mean, when you die, say you got killed by another survivor, you're gonna just find another survivor. That other survivor is gonna have a new loadout, and you're literally being told where the old corpse of the previous survivor was.
Right.
So you're gonna come back, and now you've got probably more bullets than the guy who just killed you. So, you know, that's another, like, anti-camp there. A
little balancing act that you can get by tipping the scales in favor of somebody who was unfortunately trolled.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, the other aspect which is great about Noct is you can literally just exit, start up a new game, you know, get off that server, start up a new game, and you'll be right back where you left off. And there's no penalty for that, because, you know, we're not limiting players in that way. Like, your characters all save locally. It's your stuff. So, you know, you get to kind of manage that if you want. So the option's there. You know, you can play with who you want. You're not forced into anything. You know, that wasn't our objective when we wanted to make the game. We wanted to give players as many options as possible to enjoy different aspects of the game.
Chris, how the hell did you get to this point, man? How the hell did you get this point in your career? What made you want to start making games?
I played Hotline Miami, and I've been, you know, a really big fan of indie games, and literally I played Hotline Miami a bunch, and I was just like, I love this. I love what it's done for top-down gaming, and there's not enough top-down games, and I'm gonna make a game. Like, that was the core inspiration.
And that was it. That was the moment.
That was what started it. That was like the start of, you know, hey, I'm gonna do this, and you know, I had to teach myself to make Noct, which was really challenging.
Well, walk me through that process, because I feel like, you know, I over the past 30 years, I think, literally since the moment that I have had the capacity for speech, I have been meeting people who, whether they were 4 or, you know, in their mid-30s, saying, oh man, I want to make my own game. Like, oh, I want to make my own Mega Man. I want to make my own, you know, insert blank. But that's an enormous hurdle to get over to actually doing it yourself, let alone making any kind of game, let alone a game that's intended to be networked. So like,
Right.
how the hell did you go about this? Like, where did you even start?
Well, I guess a long time ago. I mean, I've always had an interest in making games, and a while ago, the tools were not available. Not for some, like I like doing art, and that's my thing. And before this, I did freelance art and stuff like that. So I didn't really know how to program. So that was the first hurdle, to say, okay, I'm gonna have to learn C#, or I'm gonna have to learn insert language to make the game. So I just started researching and just said, okay, what are going to be the best tools that I need to learn how to use to make the game that I want to make, and how far can I get by myself on it? And that was the biggest thing, because you're, as an indie developer, you can't go, oh, okay, I'm going to hire a programmer, I'm going to hire an artist, I'm going to, like, they have to eat, they have to put food on their table, and they might not want to work on your game because they have their own project that they want to work on.
Right.
So the more independent I could make it, I just said, okay, I'm going to see how far I can get by just doing this solo, and it's going to be really hard, but I really want to make this game. And that was basically the drive to just learn. And through doing that, like, I guess I have this new respect for any game developer who says, okay, I don't know how to go do that, but I'm gonna take the time and learn and find out and expand that knowledge to, like, achieve what you want to achieve. That's the way to go about it. Definitely. Like, just learn as much as you can. You're always learning.
See, like, the funny thing there is you were always your worst enemy. Like,
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, just go and learn it. Or I could sit on the couch and watch 20-year-old episodes of The Simpsons and eat a bag of chips instead of creating my dream project. That's not... Discovering the motivation to get to that place is tricky business, man. I'm curious about why top-down games in the first place. That's a peculiar, like, point of obsession. Like, obviously 30 years ago, there were a lot more of them. You had, like, Akari Warriors and Commando and whatnot. But, like, why that style of game? Obviously Hotline Miami does a very distinctive thing, but what gets your goat about them?
I picked it also because it was difficult, and I know that's, like, it's probably not the best thing to say, but I mean, it's difficult to convey everything. So I wanted the challenge to try and do what I can with that, in a sense of, like, okay, I'm only being given this much to work with in minimalism and this very limited palette, and I have to create this with it, and just say, okay, how do I get from point A to point B? And that was that was an exciting challenge of it. So I if somebody asked me, like, oh, well, should I make a top-down game if I want to do this? And I would say, well, only if you really want to kind of struggle with it and you want the challenge of doing that. Otherwise, I would take another perspective that allows you to show more of the character, show more of the environment, or at least from a perspective that people are more familiar with. I mean, we don't observe a lot of things from top down.
No. Not at all.
So there's also the uniqueness to that. When you do see it, you're like, it draws attention. So yeah, I guess those would be, like, the the primary components. Is why I chose that.
Yeah. So why, like, that's I don't want to get too deep into the technical weeds, but why do you say it's so difficult? I would think in my non-game designer brain that looking at something that you're going to be able to present a wide swath of activity would be easier. But you say it's really difficult. Why?
Well, one reason is like when people look at Noct, and they see it from the top down perspective, and they see the white character and everything. I think some people I remember like on the Imager forums and everything, they thought it was a spaceship.
Ha!
They didn't know what they were looking at, and that's one of the core reasons why it makes it so hard. It's a limited perspective. You can't really see all of the character, so you kind of have to make the best of that, with animations and everything, and you know, I'm just watching you just kind of like try to dodge this nope.
He is
wow.
dead. I feel really good about it. Are his guts are these things always just walking around with their innards hanging out? Is that what's their deal?
Yeah, to a certain degree, yes.
Man, yes. They gotta take care of that. That's probably not healthy. That's probably why they're so surly. You just get your insides back in you, frog eye monster. Jesus.
I love how everybody's kind of got their own idea of what the monsters look like.
Yeah.
And that is another thing about the top-down perspective. Like it lends itself to. I mean, it's like kind of a blessing and a curse. If you want something to look a certain way, then people look at it and they go, "Oh, okay. Well, that's a this thing. That's a lizard thing." And I'm like, I didn't even make a lizard, but all right. I just stopped trying to force, certain elements early on, and just kind of left it open to interpretation. And the more you do that, the better the feel is overall. Everybody kind of has their own idea of what something is in the game.
Oh yeah, the one monster that I just killed, I was saying to Dave before, that thing looks like a version of the worst He-Man toy of all time, Battle Bones. But it's a version of Battle Bones that hates you.
So Battle Bones.
Yeah, so Battle Bones. Single and Loving It here in the chat wants to know what active survivors means, and my understanding is active survivors is the number of people currently on the map. Is that right?
That's correct. That's like, for your instance, that counter will go up when people join, but that's the only information you are presented on your screen. So you don't get to see like names of people. There's no global chat or anything like that. And it's kept very ominous for that reason of, okay, I know somebody's here, but I don't know where they are. I don't know who they are. Maybe I'm talking to them on TeamSpeak or Skype or whichever, but are they going to be my friend? Or are they going to try and hurt me? And that's all that counter displays.
Chris, I'm curious what the feedback has been on having anonymity in Noct. Have you found a lot of people being like, no, I want to see leaderboards and I want to know all about how, like, who just killed me and all that?
There's always going to be players who request those features, and I'm not against it. I think it's all about trying to find the balance of what the community wants and what you as the developer want to create your game. But it's like, so on the forums we have like our suggestion section, and I get a chance to post in there every now and then to post a reply directly to somebody, but I'm always reading it. And it's almost like this stat ticker of like, okay, this is the current, public opinion poll about what the players would like to see in the game. And that's one of the real benefits of early access, like people being able to just kind of jump in there and start contributing ideas, and then seeing those ideas come in, or some of them come in, during development.
It's very weird, man. You're one of the few people that I have talked to since we started doing this show that got into game development after it became standard for your audience to be an active part of the development process. Most of the people we talk to are like, oh yeah, well, I've been designing games for however many years, and it's really weird because now I need to deal with 10,000 angry Steam users telling me why I need to tweak this shotgun so that it works differently. But, I'm curious about your perspective. Do you find yourself thinking, I don't know how I would do this without having the community there? Or do you think, man, next time, I'm just not even going to tell people until it's done?
I think why a lot of stuff in the game is being, retweaked now is because we made the decision not to release yet and go into early access to get more feedback. And because that community, that community has been driving the game since the Kickstarter and helping to develop it. But it was a smaller community because there's only so many people. And it grows every day. And then we had our beta. And once the beta brought in a ton of people to test it, I went over all the feedback and I was like, okay, changes need to be made here. We can do this better. And there's things in the game that we would like to see as developers and the community would like to see as the player base, for release. And so it just made more sense to, let's involve the community more. I've been developing alongside them for this long. What's a couple extra months? It's not it's not that big of a deal, right? Just involve them and if you just respond to people, right? Just remain open and respond to people and keep that dialogue going with your user base, because they're the audience for your game. Just the same as as a gamer, I'd be on the forums for whatever game, talking with other people about it. Whatever concerns you have about the game, they could be valid, so share them.
Dave, before you ask that question, let's remind everybody out there who the hell we are and what the hell we're doing and why the hell they might be interested, besides the frickin' Battle Bones is back. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of How It's Done, Games Radar's weekly developer stream, and I just got eaten by a worm. Today, we are playing Noct, a bizarre and deeply unsettling top-down action game made by a gentleman named Chris Eskins, who is on the line with us. If you have questions about why the hell Chris makes monsters that hate people, or how to get into game design, ask this man while you were here watching us. He's on the line, and this is his very first game. We are also joined by editor from GamesRadar.com, Dave Roberts, who is just about to ask Chris a question.
But yes, so the game's in early access.
Yes.
Right now. How is that different from having the having it available to a wider audience? What kinds of information are you getting from that? And how long do you plan to keep it in early access? Because like you had mentioned DayZ as being an influence, and that game is still in early access. So what is the plan for Noct in early access? Is the game mostly done? Is this just tweaking, or are you still adding features?
There was a lot of polish done on it, and but then when I got all this feedback, I stripped away a lot of the stuff and just basically said, okay, back to the drawing board with these things. They need to be better. I want people to get their money's worth, and so it's been great. The feedback's been really positive so far, and people are liking the direction of the game right now, which I think right now, if you can achieve that through your early access, then it's definitely a good thing. I see a lot of early access games that come out and then it's just negative from the get-go, right? Because the early access is kind of frowned upon. But I don't really see the devs being active. I don't really see them making sweeping changes to the game in real time as people voice their concerns. They and so we're tackling that head on, and it's been different from like anything else like the Kickstarter or an open beta, because I think also like as a player, when I buy an early access game or whichever, because I've bought a few, including DayZ, it's almost like I now have this vested interest with whatever money I put down on that game to see it get completely created. So you feel more inclined to get involved in the community, versus just paying for a game that's finished and then just being okay. That's the game. This is as good as it's going to get. Maybe there'll be a couple updates, but the game's done. So that's why like these next 3 months are so critical to shaping the core narrative of the game, to shaping a lot of the multiplayer stuff, which is what we wanted to add after release. And it's like, what, let's just put it in for release because it needs to be present. I want people to get I just don't want people to play the single player and try the online stuff and be like, oh, okay, there's not enough to do here, right? I want them to enjoy the single player, enjoy it with some friends, and then maybe if they're feeling up to it, go to the multiplayer and be like, oh wow, there's all this stuff here for me to do. It's almost like a different game within the game. And I think that me as a gamer, I'd be like, I'm getting my money's worth out of this. I'm getting more than my money's worth, right? So if that replayability, because of that. And I think it all comes down to just interfacing with your community a lot more. And because of early access, we can actually do that a lot more than we could do previously, just because the audience was smaller.
Chris, it's interesting to hear you say that, like, you see people sort of responding negatively to early access games right out the gate now, which I agree. I've seen that as well, and I've been guilty of it sometimes myself. A couple of weeks ago, we streamed a game called Layers of Fear, really interesting horror game. And Dave was just talking about the studio that made that. Their previous project was so poorly received that they literally had to give away a game to the people that played it on early access. Like, it was like so bad. That was really miserable reaction. But, not only are you seeing a positive response on early access, you kickstarted your game. And talk about something that people have a negative reaction to now. When I see... like, it's gotten to the point where even journalists, if they get an email that's like, a Kickstarter campaign is open, it's just like, not opening that. I'm not paying attention. And then you see on, Twitter and any social media outlet, when people are like, oh, a new Kickstarter, never mind. You were successful there. What do you think the future of using that is? Do you think that negative reaction is just now, while, during this period where there's been some very, very high-profile crashes and burnings, as it were? Or, is that not... did you get in on the sweet spot? Was that the last moment that, that was a viable way to get your first game funded?
At first when the Kickstarter went out and it ended up doing well, and it picked up press, and Imager really got behind the game, as well as some other social media. I think at the time I was like, oh, got really lucky, and that's your first, and you're like, I hit that sweet spot when it was, when the getting was good,
right?
Kind of, and now I look at it and I don't think that's necessarily true. Like, I think that for a complete newcomer to enter into that purely due to saturation, it's harder. Your chances of survival have decreased greatly because of the amount of projects being produced. It's a more viable way to go, or was a more viable way to go to Kickstarter, and than say 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and it's just gotten progressively harder, like in any any medium where there's like lots of saturation, it just becomes harder to stand out.
Right.
And so you have to have like a really unique project that kind of doesn't look, and it needs to get people's interest at the same time. And I think the future for it is still very viable. It's just a lot more difficult to kind of survive on there if you're not established.
Right.
I think once you establish, like, once you have a game out and you went that route and you did it a certain way, and you were successful and the project was successful and everybody was happy, then you could probably very easily go back and kickstart your next project, because you set that precedence that you know what you're doing, and you were successful at it. That's not always true. I mean, some big companies have said, well, we've made games before and we've been able to do this, and then they go there and then it's a complete and utter disaster.
Right.
I do think that there's a lot more success stories on Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general for gaming than there are negative ones. But we always hear about the negative ones more than the positive ones, because I don't know. I guess they do kind of make for better stories sometimes.
Yeah, man. I would be absolutely lying if I said that wasn't the sweetest plum for press to cover Kickstarter at this point. Like,
yes.
there is blood in the water, and of course you're gonna sit there and be like, oh man, well, these people took $500,000 of your money, and that's a. Yeah, like, it's undeniable that, like, the worst, like, Fox News journalistic impulse comes out when it comes to covering video games on Kickstarter these days. Man, I sit here and I play this, and it's hard for me to believe that this isn't done. And I'm curious why it's not done. Why is this an early access version? Because this feels like a finished game to me.
I guess it's from the view of the players, but it's also from the view of the developers. And when we're satisfied with it, when I'm satisfied with it, and I'm like, okay, this is a full playable experience, and it has the proper game loops in it where you feel like you can keep coming back to it and playing it a certain way, and you get enjoyment out of that. I'm not saying that people aren't doing that right now with early access, but as a player, if I play through it, I'm like, man, it's almost there, but it's not finished. And I get, from my perspective, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be biased to that because I'm going to be overcritical.
What is still unfinished for you? Like, what have you not been able to get quite right, even now?
Core narrative.
Yeah.
Like, from what we were going to ship is core narrative, and it needs to feel great to play it single player, and it needs to be a good balance, but it also needs to be balanced for multiplayer and, like, for your friends to come in. And you need to be able to go and do that core narrative on anyone's server. So there's all these, like, little cogs that need to be set in there. I mean, if it was a purely single player game, it'd be done, because you wouldn't have all these things you gotta keep in alignment. You could just be like, okay, here's my narrative, here's start to finish, that's the game, and here's the replayable game loop. But with all the other factors, it tacks on a lot of the workload, and so you got to keep balancing those constantly.
How long is the narrative? Like, obviously I'm just, like, wandering around looking for trouble in structures at this point. But, if I were to keep going, how long would it take me to get to the end?
About 4 to 5 hours is the expected, like, for the main story.
Dude, that is the right answer. Shit.
Yeah.
You
I think people will be able to go through it like faster, you know, and I totally love speed running games myself,
Yeah.
and we want to have that ultra hard mode, you know, as you guys were asking earlier, the shit in your pants mode,
Right.
you know, and you want to have those, but yeah, 4 to 5 hours is like what feels good, at least for the value. Like if I was just going to play, I look at it from this perspective. If I was just going to play this game single player, had no interest in playing it multiplayer, for $10, what would I as a gamer expect to get out of it?
Right.
And you know, 4 to 5 hours, it'd be like, yeah, that's like 2 to 3 movies done.
Huh.
You know, yeah, I'm in.
Oh, son of a bitch! I thought I was gonna get through that. I had a full gun. Oh man. Yeah. You know, it like, Chris, it's so weird to me. You know, I don't know what happened along the road where people stopped wanting to replay games. Because when I hear that something is like, they're like, oh, well, 30 hours of gameplay, I'm like, dude, what? I'm gonna play that once now and then maybe again when I retire, provided that I still have a machine that'll run that game then. Whereas something that's 5 or 6 hours, I can think to myself, well, I'll be able to play that a couple of times, you know, in the first couple of months. I want to do that again and again.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I've seen many complaints this week that, you know, that the new Halo game, oh, it only takes about 6 hours to finish the campaign. And I think to myself, like, oh shit, yes. I don't want just 6 hours from a $10 game. I want that from any game with a campaign almost.
Well, because then you're like, well, now I can play that on Legendary. Now I can play that again with all my friends.
Right.
Now I can go back and find all the secrets. And yeah, like having that time is nice.
Yeah, like, Chris, you know, obviously you've got to finish the game that you're making, and I know that there's nothing more noisome than somebody asking you, so what are you doing next? When you're like, I don't know, napping, not looking at this for a while. But
Yeah.
you know, like, do you see? So like, you are on the road to seeing your first project done. Where do you see yourself going next? Do you think you'll stay making something that has this sort of, you know, short to play for the first time if you just want to see the story, but potentially infinite if you're going to be playing it online? You know, where do you want to go?
It's, you know, it's difficult right now. It's like I do get asked about like future projects, and you know, and the answer is usually always the same. It's like, well, the first one isn't finished yet, so it's very difficult to think about, you know, what you want to do after this, because you're so focused on this, and all you can think about is like, oh, I got to get that mechanic right. Oh, I got to redo that level, that area. So it's, I guess, I would like to, like, I want to stay in game design, you know, and I don't know if I would want to do a sequel to the game. Like, part of me really does want to do a sequel to the game, especially if people really like it. You know, I love the idea that I could just put out stuff for it for free as like extras. So, you know, if people get the game, I don't believe in like paid for DLC. You know, I think if the game's going to sustain itself, then that's a good enough model. You know, so free DLC that the developers will continue to produce for the game will, you know, enhance its longevity and make it more memorable experience for years to come. You know, so I mean that might be the road I take with it. It's really hard to say until like it's done and I get a chance to kind of step back from it after looking at it for such a long time and working on it for such a long time and just going, okay, where do I go from here?
Another asinine question. Is there any possibility of this coming to consoles, or are you still just focused on PC only right now?
I would love to see it on consoles. I would love to see, like, this plays to me like something, people have mentioned like, oh man, PS Vita would be great for this, PlayStation would be great for this, and I'm right there with them. I don't know any developer who would be like, no, I don't want that game on a console, especially if you're like playing with a gamepad. It's like I'm playing with a gamepad on a PC, and it's like, no, I can't see this on console at all. I think it's more along the lines of I'd have to see how it does on the 3 platforms we're releasing it on, and then at the same time, many patches or whatever bug fixes after that. Be like, okay, is it good enough? Is it good to port? Are we okay to port this now? And I'd love to see it. I just don't know if it can be a reality yet.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just a few minutes left on today's stream. If you have enjoyed this as much as I have, being devoured by crab, spider, hateful worm things repeatedly, and you want to see more of this type of thing, I encourage you to click that little heart below the Twitch player on your screen and follow us every single time we go live, which is 4 days a week. We stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Next week on How It's Done, we're going to be playing another indie game called Rise of the Tomb Raider. It is a small little project, and our guest is going to be the writer of that tiny little know-nothing game, Rihanna Pratchett, who nobody has ever heard of because she's... You know what? I'm going to stop. That whole bit is dumb. I'm going to stop doing it. We're going to be playing Tomb Raider next week, everybody, with Rihanna Pratchett. It's going to be freaking awesome. So get your questions ready for her. And we'll ask her about the nightmare of working on the original Mirror's Edge. It'll be a blast. And yeah, we'll have a full slate of shows for you throughout the rest of the week. You can check out the schedule when I pop up the little screen in a second that lets you know what time those are on. Also, if you've been digging Noct, you can go get it on Steam right now. It's $10, right? The early access version?
Yep, that's correct.
I encourage you all to do it and this is not because I am kissing our guest's ass. I like this game a lot. It has stuck out in my mind since the first time I played it, almost a year ago now, and damn, Chris, you've done an impressive thing here, man.
Thank you, you guys.
Chris, you got anything else that you want the people to know about your game before we sign off for the day?
No, I mean, just if you want, I guess a pretty unique experience that, really shows that that top down can actually be scary. Please check out Noct, because I think you'll enjoy it.
And if you are looking for another scary game in your life, because tis the season and all that jazz, Dave Roberts has a miraculously appropriate list for you on GamesRadar.com right now, which is scary games for people that don't like scary games. And it's actually really appropriate. There's some great... You son of a bitch! Come on! There's no door over there! Son of a... God damn it! Don't worry about it, everybody. Don't even worry about it. Yeah, Dave just popped the link right there into the chat. You guys can go check it out there. Dave, is there anything else on the site that you want to point people to here before we get the hell out?
Let me take a peepski here. Well, we've currently ranked every Silent Hill game in the series. We have ranked, I believe we have a ranking of every Resident Evil game in the series. And all of these are definitive, objective opinions.
Right.
So
even though half of the Resident Evil list was written just by me.
Right.
It's a definitive list, everybody, even though 5 out of the 10 was written by one guy.
The list is Revelations 2, that light gun game on the Wii.
Yep.
Number 2.
That light gun game on the original PlayStation. Dead Aim! Quality game, everybody.
The online game, Resident Evil Outbreak.
Chris, Chris, what is your opinion? Best Silent Hill game, best Resident Evil game?
Oh man, first Resident Evil game for me.
Yes.
I really liked Silent Hill 2. That atmospheric, like the atmosphere in that game was basically for me. But Resident Evil sticks out as like the very first one where, I mean, when I look at it now, it's a classic. And I remember like playing that game with like grade school friends and in like one of our friends' basement with all the lights off and one player, and we're just watching him go through this mansion and being scared. We're like, oh shit, while playing that. And that stands out. I'm a sucker for classic war games like that.
Dude, you're a man after my own heart. I argued not just to have the remake of Resident Evil 1 on the list, but the original alongside it. They're different games, everybody.
Yeah.
They're different freaking games. All right, everybody, that does it for us. We will be back on Monday, next Thursday on How It's Done, Rihanna Pratchett and Rise of the Tomb Raider, and you can go on Steam right now and play the hell out of Noct, because it's great. All right, everybody, bye-bye.
Later.
Thanks. See you guys.